The other one that I think really has helped me, it's my favorite really, is this one here, Fiat Money Inflation in France, by Andrew Dixon White, how it came, what it brought, and how it ended. Saturday, June 7th, 2025, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Well, today we're going to look at the two books that have been instrumental for me in preparing, in knowing what's coming. And I read these two books almost a quarter of a century ago. And all of you know that I like history, or most of you know that I like history. And there's a phrase that's been adapted from the book of Ecclesiastes, and it's the proverb that says there's nothing is new under the sun. And that's what markets and economic and societal events really mirror, in my opinion. They don't repeat exactly, but they rhyme. And these two books really warned me about what was coming, because I believe in cycles. I believe that things come and go, come back into fashion and whatnot. And yeah, that's what we're going to do today. And I think there's still time to prepare. It's not too late, but I think we're very near to midnight, unfortunately. But what we're going to do today, though, before we go into the books, and one of them I'm going to go into detail about what could happen monetarily. I mean, societally and politically, it's all there, of course. We're going to refer to another book, but before we do, I just want to talk a little bit about the sponsor of the video today. And before we go deeper into the sponsor, I want to talk about the Trump administration and an executive order that President Trump signed on day one, on January 20th this year. And it was an executive order called Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential. And it reads, the state of Alaska holds an abundant and largely untapped supply of natural resources, including, among others, energy, mineral, timber, and seafood. And President Trump, he's indicated that he wants to develop Alaska's resources to the fullest extent possible. So the executive order directs U.S. policy to fully avail itself of Alaska's natural resources for the benefit of the people of the United States, and I think indirectly the people of the rest of the world, especially America's friends. So it's with that in mind that we're going to look at U.S. Gold Mining Inc. It's a company traded on the NASDAQ exchange. Its ticker symbol is USGO, and it has a big property in Alaska called Whistler. And the reason we're going to touch upon gold, of course, and the gold miners is because for the last 10 years or so, the gold miners have been lagging bullion, the price of gold. It has caught up and kind of outperformed year to date in 2025. So I think there's big opportunity in the miners, and The other thing that's happening is that the dollar, despite the fact that the dollar's been rising since 2008, gold has been going up, but now the dollar seems to be turning. Even the chief investment officer of a big Wall Street bank, Morgan Stanley, said that he sees the dollar in the new downward cycle. And that, of course, will benefit gold even more. And yeah, with gold around 3,500, there's still a lot of upside potential. JP Morgan sees gold, of course, reaching 6,000 by 2029. So let's look further into US Gold Mining Inc. Well, the company has no debt, and it has just under $3 million in cash and cash equivalents as of the end of 31st of March this year. And of course, yeah, the project is in Alaska. So just to give you an example of why I think this is an opportunity, back on June 6th or yesterday, the stock was trading around 40% below its all-time high. And at its IPO in April of 2023, the price of gold was trading at $1,930. Right now, of course, we're near 3,400. And the IPO price is pretty much where we are right now. So there's a huge opportunity there. So now let's look at its flagship project, the Whistler project. It's a gold, copper, silver project that includes 3 gold deposits with a combined estimated mineral resource of 6.5 million ounces of gold equivalent in the indicated category. That's the category in which the company has the most certainty, of course, that the resource is there, plus an additional 4.2 million gold ounces equivalent in the inferred category, which of course is not as certain. So I think the most critical point here that we need to understand about this opportunity is that Alaska is really number one in terms of the Trump administration's push for this untapping of extraordinary natural resources. And US Gold Mining Inc. is right in there. It's in Alaska. This is Mike Dunleavy, the governor of Alaska, meeting President Trump. He's here in this picture with the CEO of US Gold Mining Inc. on their Whistler project in Alaska. Well, with that in mind, let's look at Tim Smith, the CEO. He came from Newmont, a 100-year-old gold producer, one of the largest gold producers in the world. Yes. And he also worked for Kaminak, which discovered the coffee deposit in the Yukon and advanced the resource. And Goldcorp acquired that for $500 million Canadian. It has been one of the most significant buyouts of the past decade. So even though projects and outcomes could be different, this is one of the reasons why he was recruited to become CEO of USGO, or US Gold Mining, so he can utilize his skill sets and work towards similar goals for US Gold Mining. So to sum up, with gold at 3,400, with the miners, even though they're catching up, still lagging, and with the focus of the current administration in untapping natural resources, yes, I think US Gold Mining is well positioned to benefit from that. So make sure you do your due diligence. I'm going to leave links below in the description. Do your homework. And the other thing I would say is that US Gold Mining Inc. has now gained access they've been included in the Russell 3000. They're going to be listed as of June 27th. And the other point about this company is that the ownership is quite unique. It's 80% owned by one corporate entity. So now back to the books that have warned me about what's coming. Well, many of you know that I'm of the opinion that we're going to see a currency collapse. And by that, I mean the dollar system collapse or a hyperinflationary collapse. Yes, a lot of people think we're going to see a deflationary collapse, but we're going to focus on what I see here. I even have a hyperinflation files on the playlist if you want to go and look at it. There's loads of material there that I've been covering for the last almost 10 years. So let's get to the first book. Well, the first book is When Money Dies by Adam Ferguson. The Nightmare of the Weimar Hyperinflation. And to sum up this book, and why I think it's really important that you read it to understand what's going on. Well, it talks about what was going on in that period in Germany in the early 1920s, not just the political instability, the revolutions, the assassinations, but also the social, how things were socially, like how the morals were melting down. It talks about, of course, the economic hardships of the post-World War I period in Germany, and how the government and the central bank try to pay off the reparations, and that's through printing money, and how it affected everyone. And I've used this book many times to talk about the symptoms. And one of the symptoms that I was waiting for still a few years ago was the political mayhem. There was still in the West not enough political mayhem, in my opinion, to justify saying we're almost there. So I don't have to tell you what's going on politically, not just in the United States, but also here in the UK, Romania, Germany, everywhere. Everything is topsy-turvy. The establishment is petrified because people are waking up. And it's the same kind of thing that happened back in the during the Weimar period. It says here, in 1923, with its currency effectively worthless, the exchange rate in December of that year was $1 to, well, I think it's about 4.2 quadrillion marks. It doesn't really matter. The Weimar Republic was all but reduced to a barter economy. Expensive cigars, artworks, and jewels were routinely exchanged for staples such as bread. A cinema ticket could be bought for a lump of coal, and a bottle of paraffin for a silk shirt. In desperation, the Bavarian Prime Minister submitted a bill to the Reichsrat proposing that gluttony be made a penal offense. His exact definition of a glutton being one who habitually devotes himself to the pleasures of the table, such as to such a degree that he might arouse discontent in view of the distressful condition of the population. And yeah, things were like kind of crazy. It's a little bit with what's going on today with wokeism, the climate change. It's just things that we maybe 15, 20 years ago didn't expect to happen. So highly recommend this book. But the other one that I think really has helped me, it's my favorite really, is this one here, Fiat Money Inflation in France, by Andrew Dixon White, how it came, what it brought, and how it ended. And it's interesting that this edition here, in the inside of the book, there's a letter from the president of the Bank of New York and Trust Company, dated December 7th, 1933. Interesting year, isn't it? It was the year when FDR closed. Well, he took the U.S. off the gold standard domestically. He banned gold ownership a few months before this letter. And this is what he says. This is the president sending copies of this book to the people working in the bank. And he sent it with a letter. Dear Sir, in 1790, the French people, by general acquiescence, embarked upon what they believed to be a harmless experiment in currency inflation. The results of this action are vividly described in Dr. Andrew White's book entitled Fiat Money Inflation: How It Came, What It Brought, and How It Ended. Will you do me the favor of reading the copy of this book sent to you herewith? If it impresses you, I shall appreciate you circulating it among your friends. If you have occasion to use additional copies, we shall be glad to furnish them as long as our limited supplies last. So what we're going to do here, and this is going to take a little longer, is go through the summary that Andrew Dixon White made here towards the end of the book, and I think this will help you understand why I think this book is so important. So he says on page 66, and finally, as to the general development of the theory and practice which all this history records, my subject has been fiat money in France, how it came, what it brought, and how it ended. And just one more thing I wanted to say. There is one event that really made me almost 100% certain that what happened here was going to happen now. And that was the remarks by Governor Ben S. Bernanke before the National Economic Club of Washington, D.C. on November 21st, 2002. So I had read this book already, and the title is Deflation, Making Sure It Doesn't Happen Here. It's the famous helicopter speech. At the time, he was just a governor of the board of the Federal Reserve, but he was being groomed. Everyone knew, everyone in the financial markets knew that he was going to be Greenspan's replacement. And that really, that was an alarm for me. So just wanted to put that out there. I'm going to put a link to that speech in the description. This is the one where he says the U.S. has this technology where it can just print as much as it wants to make sure deflation doesn't happen. But let's continue with the summary here. It came by seeking a remedy for a comparatively small evil in an evil infinitely more dangerous. To cure a disease temporary in its character, a corrosive poison was administered which ate out the vitals of French prosperity. So what was that small evil they wanted to cure? Well, it was a huge amount of debt and economic activity that had ground to a halt. They were like in a recession or depression. It progressed according to a law in social physics, which we may call the law of accelerating issue and depreciation. Well, that's the inflation of the currency leading to depreciation. Nowadays, they call the rising prices inflation, which is wrong, right? Anyway, it was comparatively easy to refrain from the first issue. It was exceedingly difficult to refrain from the second, to refrain from the third, and those following were practically impossible to refrain from. So what's he talking about there? Well, he's talking about revolutionary France's QE, so to speak. the issuance of assignats. Yes, and the reason that's important is that once you start printing money, it's very hard to stop. Even though the first issue, when they did the first issue, they said this is going to be it. It was going to kickstart the economy and we can stop. And that to me was also another big alarm, a big flashing red light when they started QE back in around 2009. I said to myself, and I told my friends at work and family and friends in general, that it would never stop because I had read this book. It brought, as we have seen, commerce and manufacturers, the mercantile interest, the agricultural interest to ruin. It brought on these the same destruction which would come to a Hollander opening the dikes of the sea to irrigate his garden in the dry summer. It ended in the complete financial, moral, and political prostration of France. You can replace the West here, I think. A prostration which only a Napoleon could raise it. But this history would be incomplete without a brief sequel showing how the great genius profited by all his experience. When Bonaparte took the consulship, the condition of fiscal affairs was appalling. The government was bankrupt, an immense debt was unpaid. The further collection of taxes seemed impossible. The assessments were in hopeless conclusion. War was going on in the East, on the Rhine, and in Italy, and civil war in La Vendée. All the armies had long been unpaid, and the largest loan that could for the moment be effected was for a sum hardly meeting the expenses of the government for a single day. At the first cabinet council, Bonaparte was asked what he intended to do. He replied, "I will pay cash or pay nothing." From this time, he conducted all his operations on this basis. He arranged the assessments, funded the debt, and made payments in cash. And from this time, during all the campaigns of Marengo, Austerlitz, Jena, Eylau, Friedland, down to the Peace of Tilsit in 1807, there was but one suspension of specie payment, and this was only for a few days. I'm going to stop for a moment here. So just to clarify that by cash and specie, the author means gold and silver coin. It's not the paper money that we use today. When the first great European coalition was formed against the empire, Napoleon was hard-pressed financially, and it was proposed to resort to paper money, but he wrote to his minister, "While I live, I will never resort to irredeemable paper." He never did, and France, under this determination, commanded all the gold she needed. When Waterloo came, with the invasion of the Allies, with war on her own soil, with a change of dynasty, and with heavy expenses for war and indemnities, France, on a specie basis, irredeemable, not irredeemable money, right, experienced no severe financial distress. If we glance at the financial history of France during the Franco-Prussian War and the communist struggle, in which a far more serious pressure was brought upon French finances than our recent Civil War put upon American finance, and yet with no national stagnation or distress, but with a steady progress in prosperity, we shall see still more clearly the advantage of meeting a financial crisis in an honest and straightforward way, and by methods sanctioned by the world's most costly experience, rather than by yielding to dreamers, theorists, phrasemongers, declaimers, schemers, speculators, or that sort of reform which is the last refuge of a scoundrel. There is a lesson in all this which it behooves every thinking man to ponder. So I would add all the central bankers, and especially Ben Bernanke, to the list here. Dreamers, schemers, right? So yeah, instead of meeting a financial crisis in an honest way, we've gone down the road of fantasy, and unfortunately, I think we're very close. So I'm gonna put a link to these books below in the description. I think there might be free PDFs for them, but you can find them easily on Amazon. You can find this one on the Mises.org website as well. I'll put the link there for it. And with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good rest of the weekend. Take care. Bye.